That short and metallic notification sound is the most expensive sound in my entire life. It did not cost me money, it cost me something far more valuable. It cost me the love I had been searching for years to find. Right now, I am sitting in a completely empty apartment where every single rustle echoes off the bare walls. My iPhone lies on the polished table in front of me. The screen flickers briefly as it displays another meaningless message from a group chat I do not care about. I glare at the device with pure hatred, but my hand still treacherously twitches toward it. It is a reflex honed over 10 years. It is a reflex that has proven to be stronger than my feelings for a living, breathing person. In this ringing silence, I finally hear what she had been trying to tell me for the last 3 years, but now there is no one left to listen. It is only me and my Black Mirror master who took everything from me. It all started out so beautifully. It began like a scene from a romantic movie, but with one fatal detail that I chose to ignore. The phone was always the third wheel in our relationship. I remember 3 years ago when we went to our first serious dinner at an expensive restaurant. It was perfect. There were candles and expensive wine and an intimate atmosphere that should have led to a deep conversation. I remember the waiter bringing the dishes. The food looked incredible. What would a normal man in love do in that situation? A normal man would start eating and talking to the girl of his dreams. He would ask her about her day or tell her how beautiful she looked in that dim light. But what did I do? I spent 15 minutes adjusting the lighting for the perfect Instagram photo. I moved the candle, I rearranged the silverware, I stood up to get a better angle. She sat across from me and her smile slowly melted into a mask of polite awkwardness while I chose between the Clarendon and Lark filters. I did not notice how the food got cold. I did not notice how the lively fire in her eyes faded into boredom. I was too busy writing a witty hashtag to receive social cues from the woman sitting 2 feet away from me. I was performing my life for an audience of strangers instead of living it with the person who mattered. Gradually, this instrument began to devour our intimacy, the way rust eats away at metal. We let an enemy called phubbing into our bedroom. Phubbing is the habit of ignoring your partner in favor of a mobile phone, and it is the silent killer of modern love. We would sit down to watch a movie together, but I could not tell you the plot because I was scrolling through my newsfeed the entire time. We would get into bed, and instead of hugging her goodnight, I would turn my back to her. The only light in our bedroom came not from a warm nightlight, but from the cool, harsh blue glow of my screen. She would ask me how my day was. I would force out a mechanical noise that sounded like approval, but I was not even looking up from a video of a silly prank. I was physically in the room, my warm body was close to her, but mentally I was wandering in a digital cesspool. I was stealing precious moments of intimacy from us and trading them for the cheap dopamine rush of likes from strangers who did not care if I lived or died. The culmination of my madness came on her birthday. This should have been a celebration of her life, but it turned out to be the death sentence of our relationship. I had arranged a surprise. I bought a beautiful, expensive cake. I invited our closest friends. From the outside, I looked like the perfect boyfriend. But when the moment came for her to blow out the candles, I was not looking at her with my own eyes. I was watching her through the 5-inch screen of my smartphone because I was filming stories for my social media.
I even shouted at her. I said, "Wait, do not blow them out yet. I lost focus." Think about that for a second. I made the woman I loved wait with burning candles while I acted as the director of my miserable little reality show. At that moment, through the lens of the screen, I saw a single tear roll down her cheek. A normal human being would have dropped the phone and hugged her, but my brain was so deeply poisoned by algorithms that my first thought was that this crying would make for emotional content and it would definitely get a lot of engagement. I did not hug her to console her. I hit the publish button. The point of no return came a week after that damned birthday on a sultry Tuesday evening that I will remember for the rest of my life. She was sitting on the edge of the bed. She looked pale, her eyes were red from lack of sleep, and her voice trembled with tension as she uttered the dreaded words that every addict fears. She said, "You have to choose. It is either me or this damn phone." Silence fell over the room.
It was heavy as lead. And at that very moment, as if scripted by a wicked comedy writer, my phone vibrated on the nightstand. It was a simple notification. Maybe it was a spam email or a like on Instagram. It was nothing important, but my brain had been trained by years of Pavlovian reflexes. It worked faster than my heart or my conscience. I did not want to do it. I swear to you, I did not want to look. But my neck twitched. My gaze automatically slid to the glowing screen for a split second. It lasted only a moment, but it was enough. I looked back at her, and what I saw in her eyes was not anger. Anger implies passion. Anger implies that there is still something to fight for. What I saw was far more frightening. It was complete and utter disappointment. It was the acceptance of the fact that she had lost a competition to a piece of plastic and glass. The morning greeted me with the sound of a suitcase zipping up. That sound is a terrible sound that ends an entire era of life. She did not scream. She did not smash dishes against the wall. She did not make a scene. She simply stood in the hallway, dressed and collected, and looking completely alien to me. She looked at me with the icy calm of a surgeon pronouncing a patient dead. She asked me if I knew what the scariest thing was. She looked straight into my soul and said that I love my phone more than I love her. She said I am more afraid of missing a notification than I am of losing her. She told me to live with it. The door slammed shut with a dry click that sounded louder than any gunshot I have ever heard in a movie. I was left standing in the middle of the hallway, clutching my smartphone. At that moment, the device felt like a hot coal burning my hand, but I still could not let go because it was all I had left in the world. Instead of running after her and falling to my knees and begging her to come back, I did what I did best. I fled into a digital hole. The next 6 months became a blur of gray existence, where day and night were indistinguishable. I went on a drinking binge, only instead of vodka, I consumed terabytes of information garbage. I became a digital stalker. I updated her profile every 10 minutes. I studied her new photos, trying to figure out from the geotags where she was and who she was with. But I did not have the courage to even call her. I numbed the pain of loss by endlessly scrolling through short videos, letting the algorithms fry my brain with short bursts of cheap dopamine just to avoid feeling that gaping hole in my chest. I turned into a red-eyed zombie, living in a filthy apartment, eating delivery food, and staring at my screen for 12 hours a day, trying to replace real human warmth with a pixelated imitation of life. An epiphany hit me like a blow to the head in the most mundane situation. I was sitting in a cafe trying to work, but habitually staring at my feed. A young couple was sitting at the next table, and it was like being shown a mirror. The guy had his nose buried in a phone game. He was furiously jabbing his fingers at the screen, completely ignoring the girl across from him. She was telling him something important. She was wiping away tears with a napkin. She was trying to catch his eye and trying to reach him. But he only mumbled something unintelligible, keeping his head down because he was busy with a game. A wave of physical nausea and a sharp, burning shame washed over me, because in this indifferent, hunched-over guy, I saw myself. I saw how pathetic and wretched and cruel it looked from the outside. At that moment, I realized that nomophobia is not a cute habit of being connected. It is a disease. It is a disease that turns us into emotional invalids, incapable of empathy and intimacy. I left that cafe with shaking hands, but with a cold determination in my head. I decided I could not do this anymore. For the first time, I recognized that my addiction to my phone was not a bad habit or a generational quirk, but a real and serious illness that required treatment. I made an appointment with a therapist and instituted a strict and almost military-grade digital hygiene protocol. First, I switched my screen to black and white mode. This kills all the vibrant colors our primitive brains so cherish and turns the shiny toy into a dull gray brick. I established an ironclad rule. After 8 o'clock in the evening, the phone would be sent to jail. This was a special box in the kitchen, and I was not allowed to touch it until morning, even if a nuclear war broke out. It seemed like a simple solution, but I underestimated the enemy living in my head. Those first evenings of silence became a personal hell for me. They made physical pain seem like relief. Deprived of my digital pacifier, I was left alone with thoughts of her, and the silence began to crush me. My hands trembled, my heart pounded somewhere in my throat. An obsessive and paranoid thought throbbed in my brain. What if she texted? What if she wants to come back and I am not answering? I paced the room like a caged animal, fighting the wild urge to run to the kitchen and simply check the screen. I felt like a drug addict whose fix had been taken away. I was alternately hot and cold. I could not read. I could not watch television. I just sat and stared at the kitchen door where my phone lay, and it took all the willpower I had left just to stay in the chair. But the real shock was not the physical withdrawal symptoms. The real shock came from the revelations that began to surface during therapy sessions. We peeled back layer after layer of my brain, and suddenly I saw the terrible truth. My addiction was not about a love of technology. It was about a primal fear of real intimacy. I was using my phone as a shield. It was a legal escape from deep emotions and from the need to be vulnerable with another person. When you stare at a screen, you do not have to look into your partner's soul. You do not have to resolve difficult conflicts. You are safe in your cozy cocoon. I realized that I had ruined our relationship, not because I was so interested in Instagram, but because I had cowardly hidden behind pixels from real life and responsibility. This realization was as bitter as poison, but it became the foundation of my recovery. It took exactly a year before I could say I was healed. It was a year of painfully rebuilding my consciousness practically from scratch. Like a small child, I had to relearn how to look people in the eye. I practiced holding eye contact for longer than 3 seconds and not looking for the saving grace of glancing down at my pocket. I learned to listen to others. I started truly delving into the meaning of their words and intonations, rather than simply nodding politely while waiting for a pause to check my messenger. My brain slowly, and with great difficulty, rewired itself. It began to understand that a warm and living human emotion is worth 1,000,000 times more than a cold digital like on a post. I discovered that a genuine laugh from a friend over a cup of coffee gives me more energy and warmth than 100 views on my most successful story. I began to learn to be here and now. I learned to taste food. I learned to notice the shades of a sunset without the urge to photograph them. I learned to appreciate real and unfiltered life in all its imperfect beauty. And so, after 12 months of working on myself, fate threw me a final test to see if I had learned my lesson. I was sitting in a cozy restaurant with a new girlfriend. We were laughing and discussing books, and that fragile electricity I had lost so long ago was flickering between us. Suddenly, on the table right between us, my phone vibrated loudly and insistently. It was the same sound that had once ruined my life. The trigger was instantaneous. An old neural pathway flared up. My hand twitched, my heart skipped a beat. But this time I was ready for battle. I did not look down at the screen. I did not bother to check who was bothering me or why. I looked her straight in the eyes and smiled. With a calm and confident movement, I turned the phone face down, covering it with my palm as if shutting out the noise of the world. It was a simple gesture, but it said to her louder than any words that she is more important than anything this plastic box has to offer. I saw her relax. I saw a light come back into her eyes, and in that moment, I knew I was finally free. I am telling you this painful confession not to make you feel sorry for me. I am telling you this to prevent you from making the same fatal mistake I did. Right now, as you listen to my voice, there is probably someone sitting next to you on the couch, desperately awaiting your gaze. They are waiting for your attention and your warmth. They want it not through a screen and not through a camera lens, but truly eye to eye. Do it right now. Put your phone aside. Turn off the sound. Forget about notifications and news. Look at your loved one. Hug them. Talk to them while they are still there, before the door slams shut and deafening silence becomes your only companion in an empty apartment. Believe me, as someone who lost love to a gadget, that not a single message and not a single like and not a single trend in the world is worth the warmth you could lose in a second. Choose reality.